Five Nights at Freddy's Pizzeria Simulator has 4 main animatronics that try and kill you during the office section of the game. However, all 4 of these characters behave in the exact same way. But what if they all had a unique mechanic? Well, in this video, that's exactly what we're going to find out. I will be coming up with unique mechanics for the 4 main animatronics in the office section of Pizzeria Simulator, as well as coming up with hypothetical mechanics for other Pizza Sim characters if they were added as well. I'll even cover some unique minigame ideas I have for each of the salvage sections. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So for starters, let's go through the main 4 animatronics, starting with Molten Freddy. Now, Molten Freddy is meant to be the blend of all the Funtime animatronics. Well, except Circus Baby, but that's neither here nor there. Because of Molten Freddy being a hybrid, I think it would be cool if we use this fact to make some cool mechanics. Starting with the salvage section, I think instead of looking at him between paper flips and shocking him when he's looking up, you should instead need to listen for a soft, distorted version of Crumbling Dreams, which is the below a music box tune that plays in Sister Location. If you hear this, you need to shock them before you flip up the page, or else he will permanently progress. Unlike the original, he will only have 2 stages, the normal and attack phase. In the attack phase, he will jump scare you if you fail to shock him after he plays his music box a second time. I think this will both be a more fun game to actually play, since it won't just be a wait and see what happens kind of game, and because imagine the fear if you weren't paying attention and didn't hear the audio, only to see him looking up at you. But anyways, the real game begins with the office section. Now the office section has some interesting mechanics considering you don't need to use all of its resources. So let's change that and have each character have a mechanic unique to them. So for Molten Freddy, I feel like we don't actually need to change much of his original AI. However, I feel like there are some parts that I don't like and I want to make unique to him specifically. So let's make it that Molten Freddy is not affected by the audio lure and will always hear you no matter what. If an ad plays, he will progress through the closest path to your office, rather than having a higher chance of hearing you. In order to deal with Molten Freddy, you need to have the flashlight shining on the vent that he is in order to scare him away. And you need to track where he is using the motion detector. I will also make it that having the building too hot will make him move a little bit faster. I think this mechanic would be really good at getting the player in a rhythm of checking the motion detector while doing tasks. Which reminds me, in order to not make the game super unfair, I would change a few things about the game. For one, there's no 1 in 10 chance for the characters to hear you no matter what anymore. If you're quiet, they won't hear you. Well, besides Molten Freddy, which we just discussed. And 2, we will make it that you can use the motion detector and audio lure at the same time and while doing tasks. However, you cannot have silent ventilation on at the same time as the motion detector or the audio lure. I'm sure there are some other changes that could be made and feel free to comment them down below. But with that, we are done with Molten Freddy and can move on to our next animatronic. Now, our next animatronic is Scraptrap, and for him, I think there's some cool ideas we could have for him. But for now, let's discuss what his salvage minigame would be. Scraptrap is meant to be the psychotic killer William Afton, and he could definitely have some more of that intelligent and psychotic mind at play while doing this salvage section. So here's the idea. Instead of you playing audio and documenting results, instead, the tape would ask Scraptrap a question and he would answer that question. The question would probably be some random lore stuff. Leave a comment down below some of the questions that it might ask. But Scraptrap's answers will either be a truthful answer or a deceptive lie. And it's up to the player to decide if it is a truth or a lie. Guess right 3 times to complete the salvage. If you guess wrong, Scraptrap will progress through the same 2 stages before and you will have to answer a different question. You can only get 1 wrong. I think this would be a really clever way to show that Mr. William here is more than just another robot and to give him some more character, as well as deepen the lore considering that this was meant to be the final game. But anyways, now we move on to the office section, and my idea for him is very simple. Scraptrap will be the same as he is in Five Nights at Freddy's 3, where he needs to be lured away from the office by using the audio lure. This audio lure will have a 9 out of 10 chance to lure Scraptrap when used in the vent next to him, and will have a 75% chance to hold him every movement opportunity that he actually succeeds. Meaning that if he succeeds in movement, chances are he will just stay there. However, the second he escapes, he cannot be lured for 5 consecutive seconds. I think this would be a fair challenge of trying to lure Scraptrap away, while also having a sort of gamble where the night will get harder the longer it goes on. And if you wait too long and Scraptrap makes it to your office only for the audio lure not to work, then you will just straight up die. I think to make it fair, if you aren't making any noise in the office when he reaches you, you won't die. And he will instead have the 1 in 10 chance to hear you every second once you actually start making noise. Meaning that there is a slight chance that you can make him go back, although don't count on this at all. I really like this mechanic, but it does seem a bit overpowered. However, that won't be the case with our next character. Scrap Baby may be the weirdest character in this game, but her design and personality has a lot that we could use to make some really cool gameplay mechanics. So, starting with the salvage minigame, it could be really interesting if Scrap Baby would try to manipulate you in a similar way to William in the previous game. And since she is so hell-bent on trying to help William, you know, the whole daddy thing, whatever.
I always come.
I think it would be cool if her mechanic was similar, but slightly different. Instead of the voice asking Baby questions, she would instead tell you a short story. Again, leave below some ideas for those stories, and you would have to determine if it is fake or not based on certain clues throughout. Again, get 2 wrong and you die, and get 3 right to win. I think this would be a cool little way of having her tie in with Scraptrap while also being her own unique character. And it also ties in with Circus Baby from Sister Location and how she's always trying to manipulate the player. But now, let's move on to the office section, and in fact, I already know what her mechanic will be. Now, Scraptrap will have 2 factors in her gameplay. The first being just a standard AI where she will roam around and enter the office if she hears you. Although, she will make a distinct sound cue when she's entering the vent so you know she's there. And I want to make it that instead of her hearing you by noise, she will hear you if you move once she actually peeks her head through the vent. Which would be an animation needed for sure, but it would work. And if you moved, she would kill you no matter where you are. You wouldn't need to look at her or anything, you would just need to stop moving when she enters and to deter her off. The second mechanic would most likely be the more dangerous of the 2 mechanics, and that would be what you saw in the thumbnail. If you play the audio lure near Scrap Baby and she is drawn to it, which will be a 25% chance, and she stayed in the square with the audio lure for 5 seconds, then she would permanently break the audio lure and make you a lot more vulnerable to Scraptrap, and probably inevitably dying unless you were very, very close to completing all of your tasks. I really like this idea as it would cause you to be more careful as well as watch where everyone was. Now, I should mention that I think there should be some way to see where everyone actually is, whether it's a camera system or just sticking to the motion detector but having different patterns or colors to appear for each one of the characters so you know who is who. Maybe like the different colored hazard signs in the ducks from Ultimate Custom Night. This would just exist to make the game a bit more fair for someone who has no idea what is going on. It's easy to understand a red hazard sign over the audio lure being bad compared to a green one. Oh, and before I move on, you would prevent Baby from breaking the audio lure by removing it or moving it to another square if you can't already tell. And now we move on to our final of the main 4 animatronics, and that is Lefty. Now Lefty is an animatronic that you can buy and have enter your office section sooner than you want. So I want to make it fair if there was a hard as nails minigame that you would need to play in order to get the salvage. Or you would just have to buy Lefty to prevent playing his minigame or something. I don't know, just throwing out ideas. But anyways, my idea is that the Lefty minigame is this. Lefty will be violently shaking in front of you, and you would have a wind-up music box in front of you. You will have about 15 seconds to slowly turn the music box to the correct frequency, similar to the one in the glitch attraction. And you would need to wind it to the correct pitch, which will be the one where Lefty will stop shaking. If you fail to do this in time, Lefty will progress. Unlike before, you need to get 3 out of 5 right, and if you fail, then you don't get the salvage. Considering that Lefty is meant to be a shell for the puppet who was trapped inside, I think that this would make sense to have some sort of a music box mechanic to tie this minigame back to Five Nights at Freddy's 2. And it would act as a very difficult challenge in order to get some of that sweet bonus revenue from the salvage. And now for the office section of the night. Lefty's mechanic would probably have to be the hardest of all the characters, and I think I have a pretty simple way to do it. Let's make it so that you have to use the violent ventilation whenever Lefty shows up to the vent, which you will know based on a very specific sound cue, you know the one. And when you hear the sound cue, you have about 5 seconds to deal with anything you need to before you must turn on the silent ventilation, or else Lefty will hear you and kill you. I also think that the hotter the building gets, the faster he will move. However, I think that he should also be able to be fooled by the audio lure, but it's just a 50% chance across the board. I think this would be a great final challenge, and dealing with Lefty along with the 3 other characters would be a fun, challenging, and scary experience, while also making the game a bit more fair across the board. Now, as I said at the start of the video, I was considering adding some extra or secret characters from Pizzeria Simulator to this, but to be honest, none of these characters have any cool designs or ideas that I could actually come up with. However, if you have any ideas, let me know in the comments below. But with saying that, there is one character that I think could and definitely should have been added to this game, and that is, of course, our good friend, Golden Freddy. Let's analyze the idea if Saturday was actually a boss fight night. Now, I think everyone should be here and at their max aggression. However, unlike the previous nights where you have to do tasks, it would be a Joy of Creation style game with the camera monitor, and you need to find Golden Freddy a total of 5 times in order to actually beat the night. The camera monitor would just be a simple FNAF 1 style pizzeria, with the pizzeria and the cameras just being a basics on whatever you actually made during the game, which could be a cool little thing that you could mess around with, and Golden Freddy would spawn on any of the cameras at every minute intervals. Now, he wouldn't despawn and instead would stay on the camera until you actually find him and click on him. But you would need to swap back and forth between the main camera and the rest of the game to actually, deal with everyone at their max AI. And I think this would be a good final challenge that isn't too different from the rest of the game, and it would help tie all of the lore in FNAF together nicely, since Golden Freddy is the only character not present in this game, and I think it would make a bit more sense if he actually was, and it would just tie everything together so much better. But with that, we have covered every single Pizzeria Simulator character who can actually kill you and come up with mechanics for them. Now, I did the same idea with Five Nights at Freddy's 2 and Five Nights at Freddy's 3, so you should definitely check those out if you enjoyed this video. But anyways, don't forget to subscribe. I'm personally thanking every subscriber at 100,000 subscribers, and as always, thank you for watching.